It's a special crossover event between Locked On Rockies and Locked On Mariners. Two teams with the same record, but much different expectations for the 2023 season. Can the M's take down the Astros? Can the Rockies bounce back after a rocky homestand? We talk about all that today on the Locked On Podcast Network.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock On Rockies fans and Mariners fans, welcome into a Locked On crossover episode between Locked On Rockies and Locked On Mariners. I am just one of your hosts, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily baseball talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team each and every day. And if your team is the Rockies or the Mariners, well, you're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here, is talk about the Rockies and the Mariners each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Paul Holden, Ty Dane Gonzalez here, talking Rockies, Mariners heading to the Pacific Northwest. The Rockies are, after a disappointing homestand, this team dropping some series, getting some offense, something they haven't been able to do, and now they got to go and do it on the road. Ty, what do you got? What do you need to know about the Rockies? What has got you shaking in the boots about these two teams that are the same record, so clearly on the same level?
Yeah, so CJ Cron obviously got off to a pretty hot start, so that's one, and he's been someone that's kind of haunted the Mariners in the past, former Angel, of course. I really, to start things off here, I really am curious about how this team is navigating the loss of Brendan Rodgers so far.
Catastrophic injury. I mean, one of those, the last message you want to see from a spring training game, especially when it was just a baseball play. It was just diving for a ball. And then you were hoping, hopefully that classic, it's gross, but they can just pop it back in there and he's out for the game. He ices up and he's back next week. And instead it's tremendous damage to the joint that this is not a player. This was my number one Rockies player all offseason. All I talked about really was Brendan Rodgers. I truly believe that he is a top 5 second baseman in baseball. I really think that he is one of the best second basemen in the entire game. And luckily, they have Ryan McMahon to fill that hole. And it, as unfortunate as that injury is, it did open up an opportunity for something I was worried about in the Rockies offseason. It made Elehuris Montero the starting third baseman for the Colorado Rockies. So what the Rockies did was they have Montero. They also signed Mike Moustakas, who's going to fill and play corner bases and here and there. But the biggest prospect from the Nolan Arenado trade is given the starting spot on third, next to the second youngest player in baseball in Ezequiel Tovar. The Rockies, again, turning to a rookie shortstop, which has usually been a good success for the Rockies. And they were, for second base, they put a Gold Glover over there. I'd argue that not last year, but the year prior, I think that Ryan McMahon was a better defender than Nolan Arenado. And I can say that as one, big Nolan guy as well. I think the politics of finally was on the other side of sitting there and saying like, wow, but so that's how they've navigated the loss. But you know what they aren't going to be able to replicate, especially with some of those players. He started off so bad last year at the dish, but then was a 300 hitter at the end of the year, and they are going to miss that at bat. The Rockies are a better team on offense this year and are a better looking offense to start the year than we saw at points last year. But man, Brendan Rodgers would have really added, especially with the Profar signing. That would have been a really interesting top of the lineup with Jurickson Profar, Chris Bryant, and Brendan Rodgers. And then you lead into your CJ Cron. But man, my issue with CJ Cron is he is just so hot and cold. He'll hit a ball 472. But he'll strike out 3 times in that game too.
Yeah. I know the type. Well, too familiar with the type. I'm curious about this pitching staff, though. So Austin Gomber, the pride of the Nolan Arenado trade, is going tomorrow against Marco Gonzalez, who's not been very good the last couple of years either. So that one could be a shootout between these two offenses. We'll see. But I'm curious about Sunday. So Sunday, for now, they have the starting pitcher for the Rockies listed as TBD. And I know that German Marquez is just landed on the IL. So who do you think is starting in that game on Sunday?
There's talks of it being Noah Davis, a call up there. The thing is, there's no real notable starting pitcher to come up for the Rockies. The Rockies have exciting position player prospects, but they don't have a lot of pitching depth in general. The Rockies having German go to the IL, Antonio Senzatella tear his ACL last year and still be away until May at the earliest, they're hoping, shows that this team, the biggest mistake that they made was not adding to their starting pitching depth in the offseason or just buying into what they had. They had to turn to that last year a little bit, and there's not a lot of excitement there. So I think it will be Noah Davis, and I don't necessarily think that it's not a, whoa, we're getting to see a Noah Davis start. Like, it's not, I'm not sitting here like I gotta tune in, I gotta have it. I'd rather be seeing German Marquez out there because German Marquez is someone. The Rockies have two great pitchers, good to great, depending on what you want to say, and German Marquez and Kyle Freeland. The Mariners are going to escape Kyle Freeland, who before the loss to the Cardinals started the season with 12 2/3 scoreless innings, only gave up 2 in his time on the field against the Cardinals. Can't say the same for the bullpen. The Rockies' lack of starting pitching depth will be on full display this weekend against the Mariners. This is a team that Gomber has been okay, but still not great and necessarily dominant at all. And then it's a young guy there in Feltner at the end of the rotation that is, again, very likely it's a 5-inning, 4 runs, given a 2 walk, 2 strikeout type of performance. And then it's oh, hey, let's hope the Rockies they have pieces of the bullpen that have shown greatness, and then they've also walked in 3 batters in a row. So the Rockies have been a team that has lacked consistency, and it's a team that lacks depth, especially at the starting pitching position.
Yeah, that's been a little bit of an issue for the Mariners as well in terms of walks. They've been walking a lot of guys. I think they're bottom 5 right now in walks per 9. That's been a big issue for them thus far and has really come back to bite them in some big situations over the first 13 games here. So don't want to give too many of these guys free passes for sure, because there are some guys in this lineup, even though this is a bit of a rebuilding team, right? There are some guys.
Rebuild. The Rockies don't rebuild. We don't use that word in Colorado.
That's sacrilege.
It's very key. It's a big
right.
part of the philosophy around there. But it is a team that has potential. I got the question a lot, and there's a lot of stuff, and I especially heard it now. It's like the Rockies aren't a 100-loss team, folks. Maybe I will eat my words, but it's when I look at this Rockies roster compared to the Rockies roster last year and other Rockies rosters of the past that didn't lose 100 games, if we get a full healthy, a big X factor here in this series is going to be Chris Bryant. Chris Bryant's swinging the bat pretty well. Jurickson Profar's managed to be a bit of an issue. And Elias Diaz is having one of his hot streaks. The Rockies usually get little to no production from the catcher position. But the one thing Elias Diaz, when he is hot, he'll hit the ball, and he'll hit the ball far and hard. So if the Rockies do have a power bat looming in that bottom part of the lineup. But you mentioned the Mariners having some struggles, 6 through 9. Rockies, same exact way. You feel so much less confident. But the Rockies, it even goes up into, like CJ Cron's your big bat, but man, his bat at bats are bad. The lack of it's Charlie Blackmon and Chris Bryant have been a very good 1-2 punch for sure, or 2-3 punch wherever, Charlie Blackmon dipping a little bit in the lineup with Profar. But those two dudes are getting on base in situations and getting you on second and third scoring opportunities early in games, and the Rockies just aren't cashing in. So on top of lack of starting pitching depth to watch this weekend, the Rockies' inconsistencies on offense will also be a thing this team has to avoid, because this is a Mariners team that if they're going to lock into some Rockies pitching, they'll do some damage, and the Rockies don't get to turn to a bullpen full of studs. They have some good solid veteran arms, but nothing that's going to dominate you outside of Justin Lawrence is probably the most exciting option out of the Rockies bullpen right now.
He's seeing him a bit on Pitching Ninja.
Yeah. He is a really he's the guy that I like. It's what I like about a guy that comes out of the bullpen, and I know you can appreciate this. I want a guy that's got a unique delivery, throws a slider that just isn't. You can't hit that thing. It's impossible. When it's right, it's a frisbee, and just brings some energy. And that's what Lawrence does. He's not perfect. He still has control issues, and he got dinged for a home run in his a go ahead big time home run in his last appearance against the Cardinals. But this is a guy that can definitely make an impact in a close game. Because the one thing too for the Rockies, for Mariners fans, their star closer Daniel Bard is not pitching right now. He is still on the IL with the anxiety issues, and we're all good. I'm Daniel Bard. Take your time. I think it's a really, really cool move, but the IL, the injury bug, has hit Colorado and hit Colorado hard. I want to ask you here, Ty, why the Mariners are so successful versus the Rockies, because two teams that were in similar situations. The Rockies had a flash kind of, I think the Mariners have built something a little more sustainable, especially considering the Mariners are a little more interested in keeping some of their superstars around than the Colorado Rockies are. But I want to ask how the Rockies can get there and how the Mariners turned things around. I'm going to do that coming up here in segment number 2, but I got to tell you about our friends at Rocket Money. Rocket Money is the place that's going to help you take care of all those subscriptions. I know that you're like me and you sign up for those subscriptions, you forget about them, and some of these places don't make them all that easy to cancel these subscriptions for you, and Rocket Money can help with all of that. Over 80% of people have subscriptions they forgot about, and you could be wasting money and not even realizing it. Rocket Money will quickly and easily find your subscriptions for you and for any you don't want to pay for anymore. All you got to do is just hit cancel, and Rocket Money will cancel it for you. It's that easy. Rocket Money also helps you manage all of your finances in one place and automatically categorize your expenses so you can easily track your budget in real time and also get alerted if anything looks off. Stop throwing away your money. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/LockedOnMLB. That's rocketmoney.com/LockedOnMLB. rocketmoney.com/MLB. We're also brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is the place where you got to go. Like me, I'm in a situation. I want to go see the Rockies, and I got a bunch of people. I'm trying to go see Rockies Mariners this weekend. I haven't bought tickets yet, though. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to head over.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to head over to Game Time. I'm going to head over to Game Time because they got flash deals, last-minute tickets, an easy way to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. I'm even going to be able to look at images of my seats and have the lowest prices guaranteed. Will have event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and more. You can get it all at our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but all you got to do, create that account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off on the Game Time app. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. This is the Locked On Podcast Network. A little crossover action. Locked On Mariners, Locked On Rockies, previewing the series, talking a little baseball philosophy between the two teams as well. That's where we left off. And Ty, how did the Mariners get here? How did the Rockies get there? Can the Rockies and Mariners ever be the same when I think they have had GMs with completely different mindsets? The Mariners are even with the 5-8 record, are one of the most exciting teams in baseball. I really believe that. They have one of the best pitching staffs. Julio Rodriguez is the future face of, if it wasn't for Trout and Ohtani, he would be the biggest name in baseball. And they're just fun. I mean, the electric factory is real. Fun fact, a fun little piece of trivia for you, the Mariners fans. I was running the boards that night, and I did not catch that. So I missed the dump button. And it was live. It wasn't going to matter anyway.
That's right. You're the one who's at fault for that.
So the reason that goes over the air that he's talking about, I will have to come clean. I I was not expecting. No one has ever come close to cursing on the Mariners broadcast. I've worked them, and then he's so pumped up from the Mariners that I missed it. I jumped out of my chair and I missed the button. But I'm glad I did, because I spawned. It spawned an entire campaign. It's the Electric Factory perfectly describes T-Mobile.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the the history of Seattle. This is a baseball town at its core, and we knew that this was a sleeping giant that was going to be awakened as soon as this team finally turned the corner. And you asked about that, right? Like, where did this start? It really started in 2018, right after the season, when they had an opportunity. They had two ways that they could go about this. They could try one more time with the core of Robinson Cano and James Paxton and Gene Segura and all these guys, or they could tear it down to the studs, this roster that was getting older by the day and still hadn't been able to crack the postseason drought, and just rebuild. And Jerry DiPoto went to owner John Stanton and laid those two plans out to him and said, we really should just rebuild. This is not working. This is going nowhere. And we're going to be much worse off for it when it doesn't work for the future. It's going to derail things, not just for the next couple years, but for possibly the next decade. It'll set us back because we don't have any resources. At the time, the Mariners had what was widely considered to be the worst farm system in all of baseball. So Stanton approved of the rebuild, which, there are a lot of criticisms I have for Stanton, but that was good. That was the smart decision here on Stanton's part. And so he deserves some credit for going with that and assuming the financial hit that it was going to, have as well. So they rebuild, right? And they do it in a way that is more so focused on guys that are closer to the big leagues, may not have the upside that they could have potentially gotten, but would allow for them to turn this thing around more so in 3 to 4 years rather than 5, 6, 7 years, like most rebuilds typically go. And so through that, they were able to get guys like JP Crawford, who's now, has some issues at the plate, but a really good defender and also a leader in the clubhouse. He's been a big part of this thing. And it's also allowed them to, take a step back, take some shots on guys like an Austin Nola, who they ended up flipping for Ty France and Taylor Trammell and Andres Munoz. Amazing trade. Take a shot on a guy like a Paul Sewald, and also be able to draft and develop and create this healthy ecosystem that they have. That's one of the best in baseball in terms of developing players. And now we're seeing that come to fruition at the major league level with guys like Cal Raleigh, with guys like, Julio Rodriguez, their ability to sign him at 16 years old and develop him into what he's become, this superstar that we've all seen him become. That's really how they've been able to accomplish it. And it's been a little bit of a slow burn at times. There have been times where it looked like, I don't know if this is going to work. But Colby and I have specifically been very high on the process and high on Jerry DiPoto's process over this rebuild. And you could start to see glimpses of it. And even when they lost 100+ games in 2020 and lost the entire minor league season and lost all that time for development, they were still able to, get into 2021, a year where it kind of felt like they were maybe like an 82 to 84 win team, and they won 90 games. And then, like Julio's around the corner. And they did that in 2021, by the way, without their top prospect at the time, Jarred Kelenic, being good. He was really bad. And maybe we'll talk a little bit more about Kelenic and what he's doing lately. But
and a game away from the postseason. I mean, they were there. Yeah. I mean, I work in that last game. I mean, it was up until I think the Mariners were like pretty far behind, and then whoever they needed to lose, the players knew, the stadium knew, but you were that close, and you knew. There was not there were a lot of people obviously it was well-earned doubt for the Mariners, for so long because of the drought, but not a doubt in my mind last year. Honestly, I mean, even with the stretches, it's a team and it's paid off. And you mentioned they went and they said, let's rebuild. And the Rockies are on the record of saying, we will never rebuild. But they want to be a draft and develop team. How are you going to do that if you're not willing to rebuild? Why do you trade? The answers are still not clear of why you trade Nolan Arenado and sign Chris Bryant. Why you don't? Why you let Trevor Story and John Gray walk, and the only thing you get for them is a compensatory draft pick? It's pretty crazy. The Rockies are down to one good starter in their rotation right now. Man, sure would have been great for that guy who said he wanted to pitch in Colorado and come back to be in Colorado if you just matched the offer that the Rangers had. The Rockies simply continue to make moves that don't make sense. And then the GM that decided to set off the Arenado trade slinks away and just leaves the organization quietly with an email 3 months after trading Nolan Arenado or something like that. And then they just hire from within. The Rockies aren't willing to do what the Mariners did, because I don't know why, because the Rockies consistently have a bad rep, but they're a top 10 team in attendance. They're not going to take the financial hit as much. Because Dodger fans are still going to show up, and Cardinals fans, and the Rockies just played an away series. That's what they do. If the Rockies aren't playing the Nationals at home, more often than not, it still feels like an away series, and that's incredibly frustrating, because I go and the energy around the Mariners right now is infectious. I mean, it is just from the broadcast booth down. I mean, it's literally the stadium, the crowd, the atmosphere around the town. That's what you want to create, especially in baseball, when you got to keep the momentum through the summer. And the Mariners did that last year. I mean, they obviously had the whole big, it's looking good, they can break that, and maybe it might be hard to do so, but it's full steam ahead for this M's team. So what is your expectation for this year? How do the Mariners not disappoint this year? Is it a division title? The Astros are still considered to be the best team in baseball, but I think people underestimate how well the Mariners played the Astros in the playoffs, especially last year.
Yeah, I think they're pretty much right. You know, the whole offseason was dominated by this conversation of how much has the gap truly closed between the two teams, because the Mariners finished 16 games behind them in the standings. Like, how do you close that gap? Well, for one, everyone goes back to 0-0 to start the year, so there isn't really a 16-game gap. But also, it's just getting better than you were last opening day for this opening day. And to go back to our conversation about the offseason, that's what they did. And also, you have to factor in the additions of a full season of George Kirby, full season of Luis Castillo, full season of a good Cal Raleigh. Like, those things also matter on top of adding, Teoscar Hernandez and AJ Pollock and Colton Wong. So for me, my expectations this year are that they are going to be able to compete for a division. Both teams have started out, kind of iffy. Both the Astros and the Mariners right now are below 500. That's going to change. I don't think that the Angels and the Rangers are really capable of hanging on here for the entire season. Those rosters, even Anaheim with two superstars on their roster. I mean, they're the Angels. They haven't finished above 500 since Jerry Dipoto left, like 8 years ago.
Baseball now that the Mariners aren't them.
Yeah, they literally have they're tied for the longest playoff drought in professional sports. Had to get some Angel shade in here, as always. We always have to get some Angel shade. But yeah, I think this Mariners team can absolutely compete for the division. And I even went as far as to predict them to win the division and to win the division. One of my bold predictions was that I think they could win the division by more than 7 games this year, because of the slow start for the Astros, because of the fact that they're not going to have Altuve for a while, because their rotation is just naturally worse when they lose the defending Cy Young winner. And I also think that the Mariners are better equipped to go out and add at the trade deadline than the Astros are, and to go get better than the Astros are. So at the deadline. So all those things put together, because I'm thinking months down ahead. I'm thinking about where this team can be in July and what it can potentially add to the group. I don't really, as long as you're within striking distance at the deadline, I'm cool. I don't really I don't need you to start out super hot. I don't need you to do all this. This is why I'm not really that concerned with the slow start to the year. As long as you can get within striking distance, I think this team can get significantly better at the deadline and can really go after this thing. And I think the sky's the limit for them. Really, I really do. It's a little bit of a biased opinion. Obviously, I'm a Mariners fan, but That's me being as objective as possible. I legitimately think this is one of the best teams in baseball.
I don't think I'm not going to disagree much with you there. I think there are some maybe teams that are there, but you are right. It's a team that has the mindset of we're going to get better. They know what they have right now. And Luis Castillo, oh my goodness. I mean, shout out to the Cincinnati Reds, Mariners fans, best buddies over there.
Shout out Jeff Carr.
Yep. Wonderful trades, wonderful moves for that. And this bullpen's going to be better. This Mariners bullpen is going to get better. And let's get into some more of the now. Let's dive into let's get into previewing the series a little bit. And you mentioned him. We got to talk about the hottest hitter in baseball potentially, or one of them at least. And somebody who just said, "Hey, what's up, Mariners fans? I'm back, and you better start paying attention." And I'll let you Mariners fans know about a couple of you're going to look at this. If you know anything about the Rockies and you didn't recognize any Rockies before, you're certainly not going to recognize very many Rockies taking the field this time and this go around. So I'll let you know a little bit about the team facing the M's this weekend. But you know what? We've heard about Dipoto. We've heard about how the Rockies have run things. It's your turn. It's your time to shine. You call the shots at Ultimate Pro Baseball GM. This is the game for you if you have wanted to see how you would do as a baseball GM. And you're going to have to hire your staff. You're going to have to not only navigate player personalities and their injuries and all of the stuff that goes into players, but you're going to have to make sure that you're doing it on a budget. That's right. And it's real. So if you're a team like the Rays, you're going to have to deal with a tight budget, or the Rockies or the Mariners. You can download the teams and you can give it a shot in a realistic game world. It's completely free and playable offline. Play on the go wherever you want to go. Locked On Rockies and Mariners listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when you use the promo code Locked On in the game store. So make sure to check it out. Download the game. Just visit probaseballgm.com. You can scan the code right here on the screen as well and look it up on the App Store. That's Pro Baseball GM. That's probaseballgm.com. Ultimate Baseball GM. Start your dynasty today. Playing those games, I have certainly learned that a GM is harder than it is. But you know, it is not that hard. Criticizing them as podcast hosts, because that's what we do around here, and that's what I like to do around.
That's right. We are anti-owner, anti-front office, baby.
Hey, that's around here, around these parts. Absolutely, yeah. I give credit where I like to be. I am very critical, but I give the Rockies their flowers when they deserve them, because there are sometimes some moves, and we mentioned a little bit. The Rockies a quiet off season, but the right type of offseason. The Rockies aren't going to go take down. The Padres are buying everybody. The Dodgers are the Dodgers. Unfortunately, the Rockies just can't hang with these teams. And so they're going to field a team that isn't all that flashy, but is pretty exciting. Who's the starting left fielder for the Colorado Rockies, Ty? I'm curious if you know the answer to this question.
I'm going to look at roster resource and pretend that I'm not actually doing that while I try to answer your question.
You. It's Jurickson Profar.
Yeah. I remember that he signed with the Rockies, which was weird, really weird. But also it was really weird that he took forever to sign. And we thought for a while, because he was obviously a topic of discussion for us when we were talking about adding, one more bat, because we're like, okay, well, Jurickson Profar is here for some reason. And we're like, he must be hurt, right? But then the WBC happened and he's playing for the Netherlands. And I'm like, what's going on there? So how is Jurickson Profar doing right now?
Who has more Coors Field home runs this year, Jurickson Profar or Chris Bryant?
Wow, really?
Jurickson Profar has hit 2 home runs at Coors Field. Chris Bryant has yet to hit his first home run at home in a Colorado Rockies uniform, and that's not a knock on Chris Bryant.
Just this year,
Since Chris Bryant has signed his contract, he has not hit a home run in Colorado.
That's sad.
As a member of the Rockies, I should clarify, because he has hit home runs for other teams in Colorado.
Sure, yeah.
But It does sound sad, but Chris Bryant actually starting the year looking healthy, playing good ball. Might not be leaving the yard, but swinging the bat pretty well. The Rockies are just an incredibly unclutch team. The R for Rockies in the Rockies stands for runners stranded in scoring position, because that is what this team does. I think the only player Mariners fans might recognize on the Rockies here is going to be Charlie Blackmon, because maybe CJ Cron, of course, with the Angels, but you'll be surprised. But the two guys to watch for the Rockies this weekend will be on the left side of the infield. It'll be Aelorese Montero and Ezekiel Tovar, and Nolan Jones, if he got called up, because the Mariners will not see German Marquez, who is on the IL, which is a massive blow to the Rockies, as long as it's hopefully it's not too long, but that's a big thing. The Mariners are going to see the back half of the Rockies rotation as well. It's going to be a prime get-right weekend for the Mariners. What's your expectations? And tell me about this Jared Kelenic fella.
Yeah, so, hopefully, no disrespect to you guys, but hopefully the Mariners take care of business here, right? Like they need to, because they're 5-8 right now. They need to keep the vibes going here. They had 3 straight devastating losses in Cleveland and Chicago before getting back on the right track yesterday. They need to win a series here. They need to win this series. They need to take care of business, because this is a team that on paper you should be able to beat. You should be able to sweep if you're a team like the Mariners compared to a team like the Rockies. Again, no disrespect, but I am actually excited to see some of these guys here on Colorado. I'm particularly a Ryan McMahon fan, so I like seeing Ryan McMahon play.
Yeah, I love Ryan McMahon. Is just a prime player of I love him, but it just doesn't hit that. He just hasn't hit that full potential yet, and I really hope he gets there. It's just he strikes out, and it's just like, but he's also hitting the ball harder than he's hit the ball ever, and he's one of the best gloves in baseball. The Rockies lost Brendan Rodgers, who I thought was going to be the Rockies all-star this year and someone who was really going to surprise some folks, but he just shifted right back over to second base, and outside of the one bad error that basically cost them the game there in the series against the Cardinals. Ryan McMahon is a fine player, and actually I'm curious, would be Ryan McMahon maybe be someone on that radar potentially for the Mariners? I mean, he can hit the ball, and the defense there is no question there.
Yeah, no, that's someone we've talked about a lot. Hence why I'm a Ryan McMahon fan, right? I like him a lot. I like his fit for the Mariners a lot, and I think he's someone that Jerry Dipoto and Justin Hollander would actually really think about here if he's available. But again, when did the Rockies ever make trades, and when are the Rockies ever reasonable with their asking price if they're open to it? So.
Well, we'll end up paying you to take him, and you can just send us a couple of one really good prospect, and then like a couple of other things. It'll be great.
Right. Yeah. God, the poor you and the Nolan Arenado trade. I still feel so bad for you. But hey, Austin Goomer is going tomorrow. Hey, there you go. So you asked about Jared Kelenic, though. You should count your lucky stars. The series isn't being played in Coors, because this guy is destroying.
That's a 500-foot home run, because he hit 470 something the other day.
482 yesterday to dead center field, upper tank, dead center field, and at Wrigley, which that is the longest ball hit at Wrigley in the StatCast era. Just insane stuff. And honestly, that might not have even been his most impressive home run of the series, because he got this the night before, the night that they blew the 7-run lead. He came back. They were down 9-7. He first at bat after they blow the lead. He gets a fastball, 95-mile-per-hour fastball on the outside, bottom outside corner of the strike zone, and drives it to left center field into like 10, 15 rows back into the bleachers. Not like a little wall scraper. Like, being able to do stuff like that is something that we haven't seen out of Jared Kelenic. The Jared Kelenic of 2022, 2021, he just wouldn't do that. He's popping that ball up. He's rolling over on it. He's just completely whiffing any of those options. He's not driving the ball out, almost 400 feet to left center. It's crazy stuff that we're seeing out of Kelenic right now. He's 7th right now in Major League Baseball in WRC plus 213, which, stats at the beginning of the season are obviously inflated, but this is a different guy. And, we saw it during spring training, but, as we all know, spring training stats, there isn't a ton to glean from that. Obviously you look at the process and all that, but also, you have to account for the fact that pitchers aren't typically attacking the hitter in a specific way, they're not going off the scouting report. They're just kind of working on stuff during spring. So I was really curious to wait and see what Kelenic would look like once guys are actually game planning for him. And so far he's been spectacular. Got off to a little bit of a slow start, but this road trip, I have the numbers right here. He slashed 455, 520, 1,000 in 6 games this road trip. And pretty much all of his heroics went to waste. Because it really started on Sunday. They lose in extra innings after blowing like 3 leads in the 9th and extras. Then the next day he hits just a massive home run off of the scoreboard in right field and Wrigley, and they lose in extras. Then he has the home run to left center, and they obviously blew that lead and all that. They lose again. So finally yesterday, him doing something cool and them actually winning the game was pretty nice to see as well. But yeah, it's going to be interesting now that he's put the league on notice to see, how guys attack him now. What are the changes that are being made to, their approach against him, and how does he respond back to that? That's going to be really curious, because he's a guy that once he starts to struggle in the past, he's really gotten down on himself and just hasn't really been able to dig himself out of that hole. So that's really the key here, is now seeing him respond to adversity. So, but right now, so far, so good, man.
Yeah, that's a good point. And, just we'll wrap on that. I think that's a good closing point. The Rockies have not responded to adversity. They have that's the big thing that has prevented them from playing above 500 ball and playing a winning home series. Similar things, leads that were blown, opportunities missed. This is a team, if they want to go beat the Mariners, they can't afford to walk multiple batters in a row. They can't afford to leave runners on second and third with nobody out. I mean, we're seeing the Rockies strike out with bases loaded, nobody on 3 pitches. Like you just can't be doing some of the stuff the Rockies are doing, especially if you want to beat the Mariners. I think the Rockies got a tough task ahead of them, but I'm going to be there in person, cheering them on, hoping for the best here. But that has been your episode of Locked On Rockies, Locked On Mariners. I'm Paul Holden, joined by Ty Dane Gonzalez. Ty, where can they go to stay up to date with all things all things Mariners, and all things Seahawks and you do a lot of Seattle sports.
Yeah, I'm all about it. I'm even talking Kraken very casually, but I'm talking some Kraken playoffs starting soon. I think they're going up against the Avs too. At least they're currently slated to go up against the Avs. So, yeah, first round. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, you can check out the podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Mariners. Check us out. Me and my co-host Colby Patnode, we record on there Monday through Friday, post the shows Monday through Friday, talking Mims. You can also find us on Twitter at LO_Mariners, and you can find our personal accounts at Dane Gonzalez right down there below my face, DANEGNZLZ, and my co-host Colby over at CPAT11, that's CPAT101. And we're currently also running a fundraiser with Feeding America. 34 million Americans suffer from food insecurity. 9 million of those are children. And if you want to help out and get some hot plates out to some folks that really need it, you can check out our Feeding America donation page. I'll send Paul the link so he can put that in the description. We set a goal of $500 at the start of it, and we exceeded that within like 2 days because our listener base is amazing, and we're now at over 5K. And we're incredible. And I've made a promise that if we get to 10K, I'm gonna get a tattoo, a Mariners related tattoo. But I'm not letting you weirdos pick it. I'm not giving you that. No,
don't do that.
That much power.
As a man with tattoos, make sure it's one you like. For you Mariners fans, I'm Paul F. Holden on Twitter there, and you can also find me at just LO Rockies, Locked On Rockies. That's where you should really go. The only thing I use Twitter for is just various things. Unless you want to know about Mario Baseball, I can teach you all about Mario Baseball. That's part of what I do. But thank you all so much.
Mario Baseball.
What was that?
We need a new Mario Baseball, by the way.
I agree. I can't believe that they did not announce one before the World Baseball Classic.
Miyamoto, are you listening? Mr. Miyamoto, are you listening? We need new Mario baseball. Please make it happen.
There's a whole,
Doug Bowser,
we got a whole community ready to ball. But anyway, thank you so much, Ty. Rockies, Mariners taking a nice weekend series here. A hopefully get right series for the Mariners, and hopefully a surprising series for the Rocks. We'll see what happens here. But thank you all so much for making us your first listen of the day. Hey, we're free and streaming on your favorite streaming service, and your subscription to the Locked On Rockies and Locked On Mariners YouTube channel is one of the easiest ways you can help the show. Go support their fundraiser over there on Locked On Mariners as well for Feeding America. We'll get the link in our description over here on our side for sure. But folks, until next time, this has been the Locked On Podcast Network.